It's a
Two topics
I
for the
know,
week.
dude. Two for you this week. Yeah,
2 for 2.
2 for 2. A Muslim, a Jew, a Christian on what Jesus means to them. Let's get
Walk
to this.
into a bar. Oh, never mind.
Oh yeah, this
I was thinking the
let's
same
go.
thing.
They walk into the
Wow,
bar.
yeah, that went in a different direction there.
All right, here we go.
To many, Jesus Christ, is the second person of the Holy Trinity. He's the Son of God, and he's the Savior. Who is he to you, and who is he to Muslims?
As the Muslims, I do believe that Jesus Christ is one of the mighty prophets of God. In Islam, there are 5 prophets who are considered mighty: Noah, Abraham, Moses, Jesus, and Prophet Muhammad. These are the most noble prophets in the Islamic faith. We do believe that he was a man born miraculously without a father through Virgin Mary. We do believe in his miracles. We do believe in his final return to convey the message of God to humanity, to bring us back to the right track after these all evil things happened in this world. And so we share many aspects of our Christians' beliefs, but there's one fundamental difference between us and our Christian friends, particularly our Catholic friends, and that is about divinity of Jesus Christ. So we do believe there's a human appointed by God as a prophet, given a revelation called a gospel or Injil or good news to him to convey to Israelite and to all humanity. And that's what we Muslims believe. So I think I can say in a nutshell that I cannot be a Muslim without belief that Jesus Christ is my own prophet. He is my role model. And that's why in the Quran himself, he reminded the Muslims that worship God and obey me. Means that if you want to worship God, then follow me in worshiping the Almighty One, the Almighty God.
Talk to me a little bit about why people in Judaism haven't necessarily always thought of Jesus as a particularly important figure. I mean, he's there, he's in the New Testament, but he's not really of big concern or of much concern to Judaism and those who follow the Old Testament.
So first of all, it's the most common question that I receive from non-Jews is certainly, what do Jews believe about Jesus Christ? And the answer is that Jews do not believe in Jesus. To Jewish people, a fundamental tenet of our faith is that we do not believe that Jesus was or is or will be the Messiah. There are certain requirements that an individual would have to go through in order to be considered to be the Messiah, and Jesus simply doesn't meet those. It is true that Jesus was a real live human being who lived over 2,000 years ago and was born Jewish, and to Jewish people, he is an historical figure. There are certainly teachings of Jesus that resonate, caring for your fellow human beings, and certain social justice ways of life. But for the Jewish people, Jesus is nothing more than a historical figure. He's not God. He's not the Son of God. He's not the Messiah. We have tremendous respect for our Christian brothers and sisters, and we respect that is a core part of their theology, but it's not part of our theology. And if a Jewish person has that as part of their theology, then the bottom line is that they're no longer a part of the Jewish people, because they would be going against such a core principle of our faith tradition.
So what do you think? I mean, in terms of you and Catholics and how Catholics define who Jesus is, what he means, how do you differ to some of the comments that we've already heard?
Well, I mean, a Catholic is a Christian, so Catholics believe all things that all Christians believe, which is that Jesus is fully human, fully divine. There's a number of ways of referring to him, the second person of the Trinity, the Son of God. And, for me, Jesus Christ is the center of my life. It's hard to define him. He's a mystery. We're never going to understand fully human, fully divine in our lives. But for Christians, he's everything. He's the beginning and the end. And one thing I would add to what the rabbi was saying, I totally agree with him, and I think Jesus' Jewishness is often downplayed and misunderstood and sometimes ignored. But he was born a Jew and he died a Jew too, and all of his followers were Jewish. And at the beginning, they considered themselves Jews. You know, they considered themselves Jews, and it wasn't until after Jesus' death and resurrection that that the way, as they called themselves, started to move away from Judaism. But his whole life, he was a Jew, and I think that needs to be remembered. But really, for me, he's everything.
So there you have it, guys. A Muslim, a Jew, and Christian on what Jesus means to them. One thing I would say is, I hope when Christians watch this video, if they do, is they will understand the three positions here, or the positions of these three religious persons, and realize the conflicts between them. You know what I mean? And to search for, I guess you can search for the truth when it comes down to the historicity of Jesus. You know, the best probability. For me, I don't think Jesus ever existed. You know what I mean? I'm more on the mythicist side of things because of the scriptures that are out there. Bart Ehrman, of course, disagrees. Also, I would like to say is we're not telling people, you know, we're not telling you what the truth is or what to believe. You know, when we don't want to change your, I guess, belief structure. Just think before spewing religious nonsense that violates freedoms and basic human rights. So, go ahead, Paul.
You know, I wanted to say something about like the teachings.
This is, yeah, go ahead. Sure. Go ahead.
You know, the teachings of Jesus, whether he's just a historical figure, a prophet, or the Messiah or whatever, what about those teachings? Whatever happened to all these faiths that regard Jesus so highly or whatever, that don't follow his teachings worth a shit?
True.
They just claim to believe in him, and they yo, I'm all about Jesus, and then they totally take bigoted stances. They're stingy towards the poor. They don't want to pay taxes to feed like hungry children and shit. They're pro-war. They're okay with giant military budgets. All this shit that is so against the teachings of Jesus, and yet they hold him in such high esteem. All three. Not one of those was like Jesus, was a nobody or blah blah blah. All three were like, historical figure or prophet or Messiah. But even at the Messiah level here in America, the Christians refuse to actually adhere to the teachings of Jesus, which I find
very well said.
Totally ironic.
Very well said, CJ, and you're right on the scriptures when it comes to Jesus. Hey, listen, we can look at those scriptures too and expand on that, and one you guys can go is I'm all for, like, again, I'm not telling parents what to teach their kids and whatnot, but if it was my kid and I had a religious wife and she wanted to teach, have the kid brought up in, like, say, Catholicism, this and that, as long as my wife didn't want to indoctrinate them to say, fear eternal damnation and shit like that, that's where I put my foot down. But if it came to saying, well, Jesus had a good moral viewpoint on this issue, you know what I mean, or this issue or that issue, I'm fine with those types of teachings. I think they're sort of moral to a certain point. Okay, Jesus was still pretty fucked up dude in the New Testament. Okay, we can pretty much agree to that. But I think if you want to take the good snippets and teach your kids, that's fine, whatever. Maybe give them a little role model, but as long as they don't, you don't indoctrinate them and that's whatever. Okay, I can see that. Okay, but when you start pushing this shit into education, so on and so forth, and you become a fundamentalist, that's where I put the foot down. You're allowed to have your religious beliefs, and you're allowed to teach it to your children to a certain point, I think. But yeah, that's where I put my foot down. Go ahead, Drew or Paul or John.
I was going to say I'm not entirely convinced that the teachings of Jesus are necessarily good. I think some of them are. I agree on that, but I would say by and large, I mean, really, it's the argument that comes up a lot. The most fucked up and objectionable things in the Bible, I think, come from the New Testament. Because I know Hitchens talked about that a lot. It's not until the New Testament that you don't just die, you suffer eternally if you're not a member of the club. Mm-hmm. That sort of thing. I mean, that to me, that's the most objectionable idea in Christianity. And Islam kind of hangs on to that and carries that along.
Now,
go ahead.
I want to expand on that a little bit, Drew, and Paul, you can go. I'm sorry to interrupt, because it goes against my point. I want to make sure people understand me here. Yes, I'm all about being a secular humanist, an atheist. Yes, I would also, if my son or daughter question like the validity of the Bible to a certain point, say Revelations, I'm like, well, that's what the Bible teaches. That's what it teaches, but we try not to teach you that stuff, because I would tell my daughter or son, say, well, that's immoral in my viewpoint. I don't think it's right. You're not going to go there. Don't worry about it. And that's where I would step in. You know what I mean? Because like you said, Drew, there's a lot of immoral shit in the Bible, especially New Testament and teachings of Jesus, of course. So yeah, of course I would put my foot down to a certain point, but I would say, I guess if you have a non-religious and religious a couple, yeah, of course, yeah, you could probably meet in between. And I think that's why a lot of relationships like that work. Look at my dad; he's a heathen. My mom is a very religious Catholic, and they met in between. They never taught me this bullshit. They never taught me the fucking eternal damnation or any of that. And I grew up fine. I questioned everything, and now at the age of 20, 21, I said, you know what? I read the whole fucking Bible and it's bullshit. So this is my perspective.
But now you're gonna burn.
That's fucking right.
Yeah.
Right.
Good, Paul. I'm sorry, go.
Well, yeah, but you were talking about the teachings of Jesus too, and there's good and bad. I mean, obviously there's good things like, helping fellow people, helping the poor. But then there's the bad ones, the Sermon on the Mount. I mean, hell, like, have no thought for the morrow, as DPR pointed out, the actual quote. He's come to bring a sword. He's come to bring a sword, not peace on earth. He's come to,
divide households, mother against daughter, brother against son.
Everyone needs to follow you instead of following their, everyone needs to renounce their family ties and just follow him. And that's horrible type of thing. But you don't hear about that. No, you hear about the good stuff. It's always It's always the good stuff when people are talking about trying to kind of like whitewash this shit that happens. It's like, well, yeah, but look what happens? Like, how much charity this happens? But yeah, but you're still going after. You still have this other shit. But yeah, but don't worry about that.
I honestly think that it has a lot to do with, like, we know the Bible better than they do.
I think it has a lot to do with that.
Yeah, it does have a lot to do with that, and they don't like that. They don't like that. And again, on my point that I said, guys, it's not my position. I'm just saying if you were like in a relationship, so just leave it there. So it's not like I'm saying this is what I believe. But no, if I was in a relationship with another non-believer, and my son came home and talked about the Bible and shit like that, yeah, I would exactly tell my position. Of course I would. But then again, I wouldn't say that they can't go to church or can't go here with their friends. That's whatever. But John, you got anything to say on this?
Yeah, the character of Jesus in the Bible doesn't seem consistent enough for me to believe that it was just one guy. I'm thinking there was a lot contributing to this character. Yeah. It could have been accounts of multiple people, or it could have just been made up wholesale by multiple people. And another thing I wanted to say is this notion of eternal life in heaven or eternal suffering in hell. It's obvious to me that a God who created the universe and is omnibenevolent and all-knowing and this super enlightened being, it just seems so obvious to me that it wouldn't want a relationship with people who were coerced to be there, whether they want to try to get something from God or because they are afraid of God doing something to them. That is not something that an enlightened being desires. I don't want people around me because they were coerced to be there.
Right. It sounds very Bronze Age, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Right. That mixed with the blood myths and all that.
You remember a long time ago we came up with the idea for the Jesus on Twitter where he had 12 followers? Wasn't that us that came up with?
Yeah, he has 12 subscribers.
Yeah, it's 12 subscribers, that's right.
Yeah, 12 followers on Twitter.
Yeah, I remember that night. That's funny shit.
That's right, yeah.
No, but what I want to say is I want to expand on what John said. Is you're right. We can look at the Bible scriptures, the ones that we do have, and realize all the discrepancies and contradictions, and and especially when it comes to the divine sense, like water into wine, virgin birth, a talking snake, resurrections, which was also common practice back then, or commonplace, I should say, back in those days. Out of all those copies, which none of the originals were found, none of them match up word for word, like I stated before. You know, what is one to believe in? You know, your belief is totally speculative. It's subjective. Religious beliefs are very similar, but not two are the same, as we see here with these three religious guys here. So, I mean, like, it just points to how subjective people are when it comes to their Bible, and how two are not the same. You'll see religious people fighting back and forth, like, no, Jesus didn't say that. No, Jesus did say that. I'm like, look at Bill Maher's movie, Religulous. I'm like, you see all these fucking people in fucking, was it Jesus land near you guys? They're going back and forth and fighting about the Bible. Oh, no, Jesus didn't say it. Oh, of course he did. No, I don't believe that. It's like, what? It's like, come on, man. So I think that's a good point to bring up, saying not two people would really feel the same about the Bible from cover to cover, I think. So.
Yeah, well, and the funniest thing is, who doesn't have access to a goddamn Bible? Look it up. Yeah. I mean, that's one of the things that we're going through with a lot of these people. All this objectionable shit in the fucking Bible, we're telling them chapter and verse to look it up, and they're like, "Oh, I just don't buy that."
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to look at that.
Into a motel.
Yeah. I don't want to look into that.
They give Bibles away everywhere. They're at dollar stores, dude. Who doesn't have a dollar to spend on a Bible? Read it.
If you go to your local Goodwill, they'll have the Bible is right next to Sarah Palin's Going Rogue. And they have plenty of copies of each.
That was pretty fucking funny, dude.